general election. My name is Joshua Karetti, and I will be your Master of Ceremony for this morning. We would also like to welcome members of the Guelph Catholic District School Board and the local people. Welcome to all the candidates joining us today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to meet the students from St. James, Bishop McDonald, and Our Lady of Lourdes. All the candidates present are running to be our federal representative for the riding of Guelph. The candidates are here to speak with youth from our community and to answer questions about Guelph and the issues facing our country. While most of us here cannot vote, we are still part of the democratic process, and this event is proof of that. Students are eager to ask questions, and we look forward to hearing from all of the candidates. Before we commence our event, I would like to start with the land grant. The Wellington Catholic District School Board is situated on the ancestral and treaty lands of the Mississauga of the Credit and Saudi Ojibwe Nation. This land also includes a specified tract of land granted to the Six Nations of the Grand River. This area has been and continues to be home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. St. James is on Treaty 3, also known as the Between the Lakes Beaches. As you listen today, you are invited to reflect on what this land acknowledgement truly means, and how the values of truth, respect, and responsibility should shape the choices we make as a community. I will now go over the rules and expectations for our forum. Today's focus is not a debate, but rather answers to the questions. The format is as follows. Candidates will first have up to 2 minutes to introduce themselves. After each candidate has spoken, we will move on to questions. Students have prepared questions ahead of time. These students are sitting in the front row of the cafeteria and will be called on to ask the questions. After each question is asked, candidates will have up to 1 minute to respond. After 1 minute has elapsed, candidates will be asked to end the response. We will also rotate the mic for each question so that different candidates are each time. We ask audience members to hold off from clapping during the question and answer session. That way, we will be able to get through questions faster. Today is not about cheering on a certain party or a certain candidate. Today is about hearing what they have to say about issues that concern us. You are encouraged to applaud after all the candidates present their introductory remarks. You are also encouraged to applaud at the end, but please hold your applause during the Q&A session. We also ask that you all remain respectful to our candidates, regardless of what they have to say about different issues, and that you do not heckle or start speaking while they are speaking. It is now time to start hearing from the candidates. 5 of the 8 candidates running for Guelph are here today. They are candidates from the Conservative Party of Canada, the Green Party of Canada, the Liberal Party of Canada, the New Democratic Party of Canada, commonly known as the NDP, and the People's Party of Canada, commonly known as the PPC. There are 3 other candidates running for the riding of Guelph. They include a candidate from the Marxist-Leninist Party of Canada, the Canadian Future Party, and an independent candidate. These candidates are not invited today simply because the event was organized and finalized before their candidacies were announced. I will now introduce each of the candidates. Candidates, in your 2 minutes introduction, please introduce yourself, discuss why you are running, and why your party is the best party to represent Guelph and form government. It is time to introduce our first candidate, Mr. Grover Kyra, representing the Conservative Party of Canada. Mr. Kyra, you have up to 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Hello everybody, my name is Grover Kyra, and yes, I am running to be next member of Parliament for our youth riding of Guelph. I received my education, my post-secondary education right here in Guelph in criminal justice and public policy, where I graduated with distinction, and I proceeded on to law school. Why do I think I'm the best fit to be your next representative? And that's not just because of my education focused in public policy, specifically federal public policy, which I think will be necessary, but also I believe myself to be somebody who builds people and somebody who will build my constituents. And someone who can work very well with other levels of government to bring positive change to our beloved riding. I think the Conservative Party of Canada is in the best position to govern because I believe we bring the best policies forward that will benefit our country, but also our city and our riding. I believe in a permanent end to the carbon tax. I believe in an end to the catch and release system, which has wreaked havoc across our riding and across our entire nation. And I believe in getting more homes built for us because before you know it, you'll be able to enter the heated economy in a major way, like I did not too many years ago. And I found myself shut out of the housing market. And I want to change that. I want to work to change that. And I think being here at St. James and being across so many young people, as a young person myself, I want to say that I know your concerns because I'm living through them right now. And I know what you're going to face when you leave Canadian high school and enter our economy in a more significant way. And I think we need to send somebody who has this experience to Parliament to fight on our behalf, because in our age group we are the least politically active, I would say, probably the most affected by government decisions. So we need somebody to speak up for all of us, and especially our younger people, which is why I'm running. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I would now like to introduce our next candidate, Dr. Anne-Marie Zadlik, running as the Green Party Canada candidate. Dr. Zadlik, you have up to 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm running for the Green Party because the Green Party represents my values. I also think the Green Party has the greatest platform among all the parties for climate action and healthcare reform. I have been a family physician in Guelph for 35 years. In the last 10 years, I've watched the disintegration of our healthcare system. I have watched as people do without primary care and have less and less access to care. Next year, 56,000 people in Guelph area will be without a family physician. I'm also prescribing antidepressants and anxiety medications to young people more than I ever have before. And they come to me with their concerns. They are hopeless about the future. They're worried about the climate. They're worried about their planet. They're worried about their ability to become educated post-secondary and to afford housing. They're worried about food insecurity and housing insecurity. I'm here because I want to represent that group of people. I want to help tackle climate change, housing affordability, and make sure that our country is the kind of country we had 40 years ago, which was a country that fought for the people, a country that provided for everything people needed so that we could live happy, healthy lives. We are not that country anymore. And I think we need green values in order to get back to the kind of country that takes care of everyone.
Thank you. Next, I would like to introduce Ms. Dominique O'Rourke, representing the Liberal Party of Canada. Ms. O'Rourke, you have up to 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Thanks so much. Good morning, bonjour. Why me? Why now? And why the Liberal Party of Canada? So when I was in first year university, I worked in the House of Commons as a page, then I was a tour guide, and then I was a parliamentary intern. I have seen what happens when Parliament works well and works for people. So I also worked in government relations, being a bridge between businesses and charities and government. I came to Guelph in 1997 to work for the cooperators in public relations, then media and government relations. I own my own communications firm, and I've written about national issues like youth, belonging, well-being, and I have a master's degree in leadership at the University of Guelph. I've always volunteered in the city, and I've raised my family here. I have a 21-year-old and an 18-year-old, so I'm very familiar with their concerns. Since 2018, I've served Guelph as a city councillor, fighting every week to build a better city. More housing, more funding for long-term care for the homeless, help for small businesses, and accountability. I have a very deep understanding of Guelph's needs and opportunities, and I know how policy aligns in a city and in a home. I'm ready to be a strong voice for Guelph in Ottawa, and I'm prepared to take on the larger challenges facing our country and the planet. Right now, Canada is facing the biggest threat to our sovereignty and our economy that we have seen in decades. And at the same time, we need bold climate action because the planet does not care who is president or who is prime minister, but I do, and you do. And we need to address important daily concerns around affordability, jobs, housing, and general affordability. I'm a liberal because I believe government can be and should be a force for good. When times are tough, people look to their government for help and leadership, and these are tough times. Trump's tariffs are going to hit home and hard. In fact, Guelph is likely the most vulnerable city in the country.
2 minutes. It is now time to introduce Ms. Janet Folk-Dawson, running for the New Democratic Party. Ms. Folk-Dawson, you have up to 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Janice Folk-Dawson. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a settler, an injured worker with a permanent disability, a working class feminist, I've lived in Guelph for 39 years with my partner, and I've worked at the University of Guelph for 35 years, and I've raised my son in the education system in Guelph. I have negotiated over 30 collective agreements in the public sector. I've been effective in changing policy and regulations at all 3 levels of government. I'm a disability justice advocate, a poverty activist, and a peace activist. I'm a socialist and an NDPer since I was 16. I'm passionate about talking and listening to politics. I'm inspired and encouraged to be in a high school, first of all because the NDP believes with electoral reform, 16 years should be the age that folks are allowed to vote. But I'm also here because I think that it is a very dangerous time right now in the world. We are seeing what everybody is calling the rise of hate, but let's be honest, let's be clear, it's the rise of fascism. They have the blueprint from the last rise of fascism in the 40s. Universities, they came in and infiltrated our universities and our high schools. They destroyed the union movement. They attacked equity groups, and they created economic chaos. We're here. The same thing is happening. The blueprint is unfolding before us. Certainly in this election, we need to address the tariffs, which are just the forefront of the attack. And it's just the beginning. We're going to have another 4 years of having to watch that attack coming. But we need to address the issues in this election. Climate, health, affordable housing, access to food. And while we're doing that, we're going to be resisting fascism. And we need to understand that this is being done in a capitalistic framework. I'm here because I'm very excited to hear and listen and exchange ideas, and I believe that the NDP is the conscience of our government. Thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to introduce Mr. Jeffrey Swanhammer, representing the People's Party of Canada. Mr. Swanhammer, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. As my friend here said, my name is Jeffrey Swanhammer. I was born and raised in Guelph. 23 years old. I was born at the Guelph General Hospital, December 13th, 2001. I'd say I'm the youngest candidate, but my point is, I understand what you guys are going through. I see it too. I don't have a house. I don't have an apartment. I don't have a lease. So I'm not able to rent. I still live at home. I have a hard time finding a job sometimes because there's so much competition. We have a lot of people in Guelph, a lot of people in Southern Ontario, a lot of people in certain provinces in Canada. There's a lot of competition, a lot of demand, but not a lot of supply for a lot of basic things in life that you need to build your own way in life. I understand it. I go from job to job, I go wherever I can. I think you guys will too. I think you probably do right now. Housing is such a fickle thing right now. I'm sorry to say, but you guys will probably be included in what I'm going through too. It's unfortunate, but it's the way things are. I believe my People's Party of Canada, our government, would make sure that Canadian citizens are given priority when it comes to jobs, housing, and anything that's required. We are Canadians, by Canadians, and for Canadians. We gotta take care of our own people because ultimately this is our home. We take care of our neighbors, we take care of our men and women, and everyone else. That's all I have to say.
Thank you to all the candidates for introducing themselves. Students, let's give them a warm round of applause. Thank you. I now ask that you hold off any applause or cheering until the end when the entire Q&A session is over. We will now move into our Q&A session being led by students. Candidates, again, you will have up to 1 minute to respond to each question. Once a minute has elapsed, I will kindly ask you to end your response and let the next candidate answer the question. Students asking questions from the audience, you know who you are. You will be directed by a teacher as to when to go up and ask a question. You will ask your question, right there, okay. Let us begin. I'd like to call upon the first group of students to ask their questions to the candidates.
Affordable. Hey, thanks for the question. To make housing more affordable, our party has pledged to axe the sales tax and the purchase of new homes up to $1.3 million, which will save you up to $65,000. Now, it's not just that will help reduce your bill when you purchase the home, which I hope you will very soon. What will help is also increasing the supply of homes being built. This will naturally bring down the prices of homes and alleviate the supply issues we're facing, especially here in Guelph, which we saw in 2024 a 65% drop in home building starts. And we estimate that this policy will add up to 36,000 new homes every single year in our country, which will help not just in purchasing your home, but also being able to rent a home at a decent price.
15 seconds.
So that's what we'll be doing to help address the housing crisis that Guelph is currently experiencing. Thank you for the question, Liam.
Yes, thank you for the question. Was it Liam? Yes, Liam. We believe as the Green Party that the federal government needs to get involved in building houses again. There are neighborhoods in Guelph where you'll see more homes, and these were homes that were built very quickly after World War II. The federal government needs to start building homes like this, different now because of climate change, medium density and high density homes, good quality, where a person pays a mortgage that is less than 30% of their income. It's impossible if you're paying 40-50% of your mortgage as part of your income. So affordable homes, deeply affordable homes built by the federal government.
15 seconds.
And also to stop investments by foreign investors and investments in the housing market to keep investors from driving up the cost of homes.
So the Liberal Party has already invested $21.4 million in Guelph for the Housing Accelerator Fund. So there are a number of measures in place already to accelerate the construction of housing, including incentives for tiny homes and basement apartments to increase the supply of rental units. Let's be clear, the Conservative government has said they will cancel the Housing Accelerator Fund. The Conservative government has said that any city that does not meet its housing targets will lose its infrastructure funding. And a city cannot build new housing without sewers and sidewalks and street lamps, and that will be a direct download onto your property taxes. The Mark Carney government has pledged historic building, 500,000 units, including on federal lands. And we also need to be looking at the Conservative provincial government's failure to build new social housing. As the federal government has invested in homelessness, the province has reduced its spending on supportive housing.
Great question, and I think that the solution is in front of us. Up until the 1990s, we were building affordable homes right across this country. We need to go back to figuring out what worked during that process, and that includes not just homes, but rental properties. So the NDP has proposed that what we will do is we will put a ban on corporations buying those rentals, and it needs to come back to be affordable, and most importantly, accessible homes. When we're building those affordable Canadian material homes, we need to make sure that they are climate resistant, and we need to make sure that they are, that part of the funding only comes when you're meeting green building standards. And we can look at other jurisdictions where this housing, those housing proposals have actually worked in Europe.
When it comes to housing, I think it's really simple. Again, like just looking at Guelph, we have almost 150,000 people. That's pretty big. I think, like I said, there's a lot of demand but not enough supply. My point is, these houses that are going up in each end of Guelph, especially the south and even now the north, they're not affordable, right? I think we've got to look at who's coming in, who's living in them. Are they Guelph residents? Are they people in Gen Z? I don't think so. I think a lot of the time it's people's second homes coming from the GTA, Brantford, Brampton. We're not taking care of our own people. Again, I think we got to prioritize Guelph citizens and whatever municipality or city they live in. We got to take care of them first before you have people coming. That's all.
The next person may ask the question to the candidates.
My name is Julia, and my question for you is, what steps will you take to healthcare system remains
Sorry, I thought it was actually Girl Dream, sorry. But,
Sorry. Dr. Zadek from the Group.
So I believe that we need to change the Canada Health Act. The Canada Health Act has not been reformed since 1984. It's the act that implements policy around healthcare. In 1984, it was designed just to pay physicians and to provide people with hospital services. Our health issues are much more complex. We need a primary care health act under the Canada Health Act, and we need a mental health and addictions act. What I want to do in Guelph is create a clinic, which I'm already building out, that will allow for the 56,000 patients who are without primary care to start receiving primary care, and also to work towards making climate health part of what we provide in healthcare services.
Thank you. The Liberal government has announced the largest healthcare transfer to provinces in Canadian history. It's going to increase by 60%. Through COVID, 8 out of $10 that helped people receive the care they needed came from the federal government. The fact of the matter is our Constitution has as a provincial responsibility the delivery of healthcare. And again, a provincial conservative government is failing to flow that through in a way that works for individuals and for their communities. And so we need to take a look at how those transfers are landing in communities, because the level of healthcare is unacceptable and the support for our healthcare workers is unacceptable. We also need to be looking at mental health care and addictions. There is a dedicated mental health care fund now that we need to protect. So we know the next Prime Minister is going to be a Liberal or a Conservative, and we know that Mark Carney will protect those investments in healthcare.
I think that what we need to look at is the ability to expand our Medicare. We were successful in the last 4 years in coalition with the other parties to actually expand healthcare to include dental care and pharmacare. We need to take that even further. We need to take care of our ears and our eyes and our mental health. I think we need to strongly defend against the privatization. We need to make sure that healthcare is accessible right across this country, whether you're urban or rural, wherever you live, in the north, in the south. Everybody needs to have equal access. Here in Guelph, we need to start thinking about how we fully fund our hospital and how we fully staff our hospital and how we bring in a strategy to bring back, make sure that there's family doctors. And I think that starts with a work strategy, government that puts in place actually an employment strategy, looking at those jobs that are going to be needed, right from technicians to doctors in our healthcare system.
Well, I have 2 solutions to that. Basically, I think we should allow provinces the option to introduce privatized healthcare. I think that the public healthcare sector has a lot of strain on it. My mom is a nurse, my grandma was a nurse, and they've been through it. They've seen it. Again, there's a lot of pressure put on GGH, any kind of public healthcare sector. I think by allowing provinces the option to at least think about privatized healthcare, will take a lot of strain, a lot of pressure off our public healthcare sector. I think in the end we would all benefit from that. And again, I'm not pushing it, I'm not forcing it, I'm saying that there should be a discussion. And again, provinces should be allowed the option.
thank you for the question. And I think this is where the Liberal government has really failed is in protecting our public health system. Nobody should be waiting 4+ hours to see the doctor or go to the hospital when they need. All agree with that. I think the Conservative Party brings the real solutions and the real plan to help address this issue. The Conservative Party is the only party so far that has pledged to share a portion of federal retail taxes from the sale of gasoline to fund provincial infrastructure, including hospitals. Well, that's one part of the problem. Of course, we have infrastructure and the lack of infrastructure, which I think will be alleviated with this policy. But another issue is the lack of a workforce to be able to work and help people. We have many thousands of people across Canada that have the credentials to work as doctors or as nurses, but there is no testing for them to be able to equate their credentials received, whether it's abroad, up to Canadian standards. The Conservative Party pledges to allow individuals individuals who have earned their credentials to be able to go through a testing process to bring them up to clean standards and work to alleviate the wait times. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Ella, and if elected to Ottawa, what strategies would you work to implement to combat the rising cost of food and food insecurity in Canada for all Canadians?
Ms. O'Rourke, you may begin.
Thanks, Ella. The number one thing we can do is support our farmers and increase our domestic production. And Mark Carney has just actually recently announced how we're going to do that. So we need to increase the food transformation here in Ontario and in Canada. We currently produce a lot of cash crops. So I think what you're going to see is a transition to Canadians being a lot more self-reliant. We're going to be looking at technology as well. For example, Guelph here in Guelph is a vertical farm that has farming right here. We also need to protect farmland that's being converted to all kinds of different uses. And then we need to look at how we're prioritizing protecting supply management for milk, eggs, dairy. Sorry, somebody tripped at the back. And we need to be looking at food insecurity in a very serious way. A piecemeal approach is not helpful. The Canada Food Program for lunches in school is going to be very helpful, but so too is just supporting families with great jobs so that they can afford a great place to live and food on the table.
That's a great question and something that I think is on the minds of everybody on a daily basis when they sit down at their supper table and try to figure out how they're going to feed their family, not just with food, but with good food. So I totally agree that we need to look at buying locally, supporting our local farmers markets, where not only are we getting local produce, we're getting local cheeses, local meats, a lot of different local products that are there. We need to certainly support our farmers and get back to the family farms, and that is a relationship that the government needs to build with the farmers and not just corporate farmers. And I think that one of the things that the NDP is looking at is that we're taking GST off of not just food items, but off of all essential items. And again, we must look at the workforce strategy of making sure that we have workers that are qualified and well-trained and who have safe jobs in the agricultural field.
I think the best way to do that is by looking right under our nose. We've got a great agricultural sector, especially in Guelph. We've got a lot of Aggies. My cousin's one. Anyways, my point is, it's right here at home, right? Some of the other candidates said that we've got to invest locally, and we do. And I think this is unpopular, but part of that is not supporting big corporations, from the States especially. Because the point is, we have so many great places in Guelph that you can shop at over Walmart, over Costco. I think we got to keep the wealth in Guelph, and that starts with going to anything. I mean, anywhere. With the grain is a good one. The boathouse, just for different needs like that. I think we've got to support Guelph, and we got to do something to sacrifice short term because it will be a long term solution.
Thanks for the question. I think our average food bill for the average family went up $700 in 2024. So that's unacceptable. And I think the best way to be able to help bring immediate relief to food prices is to actually permanently axe the carbon tax, not just change its rate, but to repeal the law itself. And $700 is a big increase for many families. And as I like to say this, when you tax the farmer who grows the food, with the fertilizer he buys, you tax the trucker who ships the food and the fuel he fills up into his truck, and you tax the grocer who stores the food for the eating he uses his grocery store. You pass that bill on to the person. You pass on those costs to the person who buys the food. So it's a common sense solution. We need to axe the carbon tax fully. Also, we have pledged to reduce the income tax by 15% for the lowest tax bracket, which will save the action on $900 per year, helping them keep up with their food bill. So thank you for the question.
I like to take a much bigger perspective when it comes to housing and food insecurity. It's a very complex issue, and yes, we can work locally. But I believe that we need a guaranteed living income. And that means that anyone who is not able to work for whatever reason receives a guaranteed income from the government that is similar to a living wage. I also believe that anyone making less than $60,000 a year should not pay income taxes at all. And that would save families $4,000 a year and would allow people to use that $4,000 to pay for food. We also should be taxing grocery stores. If their profits exceed 120% over the last 4 years, then we should put a tax on those profits. That will bring down the cost of food and allow people to purchase food at better rates, increase your income, and so on.
My name is Kendall, and what are your plans to address climate change and promote sustainability?
Climate change is certainly on the top of everyone's minds, and we have lost communities, jobs, homes, everything that families have to the climate crisis. It's happening right across this country. One of the things that I think that we need to be thinking about is that we need to be thinking about how we actually change the workforce. We need to be able to start creating good green jobs and a good green environment. We're talking about electrifying our systems. How will that happen? It will happen by making sure that we are moving people, taking the skills that we have in the workforce right now and retraining those skills into good green jobs, good green safe jobs, and to make sure that we are making our communities and our homes climate resistant, so that we have to build towards green building standards. They need to be mandatory for any funding that comes.
Thank you.
And I think that we need to, again, think about the workers we need.
I think there's a lot we can do in our communities right here. I think littering and pollution is a huge issue. You see that everywhere. You see that in the second park, you see it in Canada, you see that everywhere. That's a way we can start within our own communities, our own cities, our own towns, our own municipalities. That's something that takes a very obvious and direct and immediate effect. It affects wildlife, it affects the trees, it affects everything. And it will affect us in the long run. Because if we don't take care of our environment, if we don't take care of our green spaces and everything in between, then we're going to feel it. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I agree with you. The environment is a very serious concern, and I think we bring great ideas to help alleviate some of the climate change issues we're witnessing. The Conservative Party supports emissions caps to reduce small-causing pollutants like nitrogen oxide and sulfur dioxide. We also support investing in and funding research to pertain to carbon capture technology, battery-based storage, small modular reactors, and hydrogen-based generation. So I think we have the right path to be able to help alleviate some of our climate change issues. And I think we're very fortunate in Guelph in the surrounding region to be able to enjoy great green space, and we need to protect them. So I think we bring the best plan to the table.
Guelph needs to declare a climate emergency. Our municipal government has not done that yet. Until they do, our focus will not be on climate change. If we don't focus on climate change, there is really no point in focusing on anything else. There is a three-pronged approach to tackling climate change. One is to reduce emissions. Two is to improve our ability to adapt and mitigate against the harm that's already been done. And three is to create accountability for oil and gas industries that continue to emit gases, to divest from oil and gas industries, and to create this is a brilliant idea, a government cabinet that crosses all parties, that makes us all focus on climate change policies, but that those climate change policies go from government to government, regardless of which government is in power, and good policies don't change when a new government comes in power.
Thanks, Kendall. The City of Guelph has declared a climate crisis. The City of Guelph has committed to net zero and race to zero, and we have brought in a number of measures, including electrification, of transit, increasing transit to shift people out of vehicles. And so there's a lot going on at the City of Guelph, most of it actually funded by the federal government. Greener Homes grants, transit, and a number of grants for young people who have projects. So that's fantastic. The federal government has hit its lowest, or Canada has hit its lowest emissions in the past 30 years outside of the pandemic. The Liberal plan is working, and in fact, Mark Carney has announced more. He was the UN Special Envoy on Climate and Finance. We will see in Canada a shift to green energy. We will see innovation and jobs. We need climate resilient infrastructure, not just for homes, but for cities. The Liberal government will maintain a cap on emissions, will tackle plastic pollution, we will protect our green spaces, and in fact, you've seen a massive announcement this week to do much, much more.
Hello, my name is Heidi, and my question is, how do you propose investing in renewable energy infrastructure, and how would you balance this with the interest of oil and gas?
Well, it's a good question, and it's something I'm really concerned about because, again, it's right under our nose. We've got so much renewable energy in Ontario alone, but across Canada, I would say. Right here, we've got hydroelectricity, which I think we're really blessed with. It's so green, it's renewable, and it's clean. Also nuclear. It's not talked about enough. It's not scary. It is totally clean, totally green, but you need to dispose of it now. That's the thing. Sometimes these corporations, these companies, organizations, don't do so. They dump it because they care more about profit than our worth. So, we gotta keep them responsible. And like I said, I think we've got two big ones under our nose.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think what you just said is great because we need to balance, be able to balance both our oil and gas and also bring to the table new renewable sources. And the Conservative Party has the best plan to be able to do this. We support unlocking and utilizing our natural resources to bring wealth and prosperity into our nation, but also taking proceeds from that income and investing it into renewable resources, but also sharing it with provinces to be able to build infrastructure. So not only does the Conservative Party allow us to be able to use our own natural resources, but to also let that be a propellant to be able to bring new renewable sources to the table so that we can have a bright future with a cleaner environment than we do today. So thank you for the question.
That's a great question too. There's a book that I'd like to give everybody a copy of in the room. It's called Speed and Scale by John Doerr. We need to focus on climate change and to ramp up our efforts at great speed and at massive scale. We need to immediately stop all oil and gas subsidies. We can't move from oil and gas to renewables right away. In the interim, there needs to be a transition to decarbonize our grid using renewable energy like solar power and wind, and I will say it, nuclear. So nuclear, there's a lot of controversy around using it, but we need to keep the lights on, and as we move away from oil and gas as our main source of energy, as we decarbonize the grid, we need to use renewables and ramp the use of renewables and their technology very quickly.
Thanks, Heidi. This is the quintessential question of our time. And in order to have a thoughtful plan to transition to renewable energy, we need a serious, responsible government that will rely on expertise, on innovation, and on a wonderful workforce to do that. And so we are already seeing massive investments in that transition to clean energy. We also need to rely on the expertise of the people in the oil and gas sector who go to work every day trying to make our country and our planet a better place. Prime Minister Carney has spoken about what that plan for the transition is, and I believe that the Liberal Party will be able to effect change.
Great question. I think it has a lot of people on a daily basis trying to figure out what the best solution forward is. And quite clearly, it is easy enough to say that we need to remove oil and gas from our economy, but it affects so many communities, so many about a just transition. When people talk about just transition, they don't really talk about the employment strategy that needs to happen to make sure that we're taking those workers that are in that industry and retraining them to be able to go towards renewable energy and what that would look like. The NDP has put out issued a call for that we would go back to victory bonds. Victory bonds would be back investing in our infrastructure, in buildings, bridges, and public transportation.
Good morning, my name is Ashley. My question is, how do you plan to establish Canada security with rising tension on a global scale?
Hey, thanks for the question. We need to be able to protect our own sovereignty, and unfortunately right now, we are seeing that being threatened by someone we consider to be our closest friend. So we need somebody who is able to be a strong negotiator at the table, and we need air quality is right up to the job. We have committed to securing fair deals going forward, fair trade deals, and using these trade deals to fund our military. And we have committed to reaching a 2% spending for our national defense and protecting our Arctic. So these are ways in which we can protect our sovereignty as a nation, because Canada is not for sale, our sovereignty is not for sale. And for the Conservative Party, it's the best to be able to protect our sovereignty against foreign actors. So thank you for the question.
I think the threat of becoming the 51st state, which is what we're all concerned about, is not the greatest threat to Canada. The greatest threat to Canada is becoming a failed state. That's a big word. But there is such a gap between the rich and the poor in this country that we have been left vulnerable to attacks from our neighbor. Totally unexpected. None of us thought this would happen. But if we had a stronger social security net, if we had a stronger healthcare system, if we were able to house everyone, if we were able to make sure that everyone was food secure, we would be stronger as a nation and more able to stand up and resist what is happening at the hands of Americans. But at the present state, and unfortunately as a result of governments that did not put people first, Canada is not in a position to stand strong. We'll get there, but many things have to change. We have to make people housed and stronger individually as communities to do this.
So I went to junior high on a military base because it was the only French school in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. My friends' parents went to sea or they worked at CFB Shearwater. I am thrilled that we are going to be increasing salaries for military personnel. We need to equip them properly, ideally with equipment that is made in Canada. We need to take care of them when they come home. There's a lot of room to grow Canada's military in a number of different professions. Canada absolutely has to meet its 2% NATO commitment. We need to work with our allies, not just in terms of physical defense, but also in terms of intelligence sharing. We absolutely have to protect our Arctic. The threat is coming from the outside. We need to unite as a country. We need to invest in our military and our intelligence capability. We also need to be in a position to support our allies around the world. Canada's pride was our UN peacekeepers, and we need to get back to that reputation in the world.
So I was raised on a military base. My father was in the military, and I traveled all across Canada and Europe, and so I have a clear understanding of what our military means to our country. And I'm very proud to say that my father was a peacekeeper, and that we do need to get back to thinking about the role that our military actually plays. We need to make sure that our military, as Dominique has said, is properly equipped and properly trained. I think that the NDP is quite clear. We are a part of Team Canada, and we know that we need to, build by Canadian. We know that we need to strengthen the strong safety net, social safety net that we have. But we also know that we need to build new relationships with Europe and other allies. We need to address NATO. We need to have full discussions about that. And again, I urge us to come back to thinking about the role that Canada played as peacekeepers.
Well, I think we have a great military. Every branch, Air Force, Navy, Armed Forces. What I think they need is a little more funding, the equipment they need, the resources they need, and the manpower they need. Because we should be self-dependent, we should be self-reliant when it comes to self-defense. Also, I think something else that needs to be touched on is cybersecurity. Because, again, the Arctic is very important to secure. But those same players who are trying to secure the Arctic are trying to tap into our intelligence. I won't name names, you probably already know who, but we have a lot of threats coming in through cybersecurity measures. We got to make it tougher, and I think we should invest in Canada when we do that. I think a good one would be BlackBerry. Right now they specialize in cybersecurity. They're Waterloo-based, they're Canada-based, and my point is better cybersecurity too on top of armed forces.
This will be the final question of the Q&A session.
Good morning.
I get back to a guaranteed livable income or a guaranteed living wage. I think in order for people with disabilities to get into the workforce, they need to be strong in their ability to be housed and to feed themselves. If they have a guaranteed living wage, they don't need to worry about providing for themselves. They can look towards becoming educated and to receiving an education that allows them to enter into the workforce. Healthcare is very important with people who are disabled by having universal pharmacare and dental care and taking the pressure off of households where disabled people live financially will allow them to focus on education and re-entering into the workforce.
Thanks for your question. I hear questions about disabled people when I'm knocking on doors all the time. I'm a Liberal because it is a party that believes in inclusion and valuing everyone. And so we absolutely need to make sure that disabled people have equal access to education and employment, and that employers are making accommodations to get the best value out of what everybody brings to the table. And at the same time, we absolutely do need not just affordable, but accessible housing. And on City Council, I was a champion to make sure that in buildings we have accessible units and continue to advocate for disabled people, both at the city, and will continue to be a strong voice for disabled people in Ottawa. Both my parents had serious mobility challenges. I completely understand some of the challenges disabled people face. I think we also need to be talking about people who have cognitive disabilities. And I will point again to the province and their Conservative government that has criminally low ODSP rates, making it very, very difficult for disabled people to function with dignity in society.
So I am a person living with a disability. I was injured in my workplace in 1995. And so I have come to the understanding that what we need to do, instead of talking about a universal design, we need to talk about an inclusive design, where persons with disabilities are right at the very beginning of when that design happens. We need to make sure that our federal government, we have an accessible Canada Act, that most people don't even know about. And there are great standards that are in that act, but those standards are voluntary, not mandatory. And it would simply be the signing of a document that our government would now make those accommodations, those standards mandatory. I also think that we need to be able to find the funding to be able to help small businesses to be able to implement those standards in their workplaces or in their homes. And last, the disability benefits should be at or above the poverty line.
Well, I think disabled Canadians or anyone dealing with anything of the sort should be given every opportunity and every luxury that someone without a disability has. I would like to see a Canada, a society, a world where we allow people who sustain workplace injuries to continue to work at that place. I think we should really take care of our own people. Let's say you work at a warehouse. Right? You get injured, you get a physical injury, and it's serious. Let's say you're paralyzed or connected. I think in an ideal society, we should still have a position, we should still have work for them within that sector.
Yeah, thank you for the question. The Conservative Party is a party for everybody. It's a party of inclusion, and we value all Canadians, including disabled Canadians. And we believe that all Canadians, including disabled Canadians, should have the right to be able to earn a living and the right to live a life that has all the luxuries and comforts that somebody that any other Canadians can have. And one way that we do this is backing up with action. We will be unlocking our resources and using them to directly fund infrastructure, including infrastructure to make workplaces and public spaces more accessible for those that are disabled. And to add to that, for those individuals who can get injured at work and are critically injured, we will be increasing the pledge to increase the duration for EI up to 52 weeks, up from 37 weeks. So the Conservative Party is a party for all people, including workers and disabled Canadians. Thank you for the question.
That is time for the forum's Q&A session. We had a lot of great questions today, covering a wide range of topics concerning Guelph, youth, and Canada. Dr. Zadlik, Mr. O'Rourke, Ms. Dawson, Mr. Kyra, and Mr. Swakhammer, we sincerely thank you for taking time out of your day to speak with students from the Wellington Catholic District School Board. We wish you all the best in the upcoming election, and I thank you for putting your names forward as part of our democratic process. I would like to invite some students from St. James to present gifts on behalf of the school board. Students, let us now thank our guests for coming here today.
Candidates, thank you once again for joining us today and for speaking with students from the Wellington Catholic District School Board. I would also like to thank Joshua Peretti for being the MC, the students who asked and prepared questions, and all other students that helped out today, including the greeters, the ones that brought up gifts, the students responsible for taking photos, and students responsible for the tech. This event would not have been possible without your help. In terms of exiting, students that were excused for period 1 will stay here until the bell. Students that are with the class that came here, after I'm done speaking, you may head back to your class with your teacher. Students from Lourdes and VM, please stay in the cafeteria until your teachers direct you to leave. And students with Mr. Carboni's grade 12 history class, please remain in the cafeteria to help put away the chairs. Thank you everyone for attending, and let's give our candidates one last round of applause.